Hi friends, welcome back to the studio today. Thank you for joining me again. I want to talk about ArtStudio Pro for the Mac. ArtStudio Pro is a program I've used on an iPad for a long time. It's a really great mobile drawing app that you can use for digital artists on the go. But recently they've come out with a Mac version. I don't know exactly how long ago, but I downloaded it the other day to try the desktop version of it. So desktop for the Mac. ArtStudio Pro is a pretty good program when it comes to digital mobile drawing. It's a really great program. I've enjoyed it for a couple of years now, and it has a lot of capability and a lot of breadth to what you can actually do in the program. Really kind of similar to Photoshop in a lot of ways. It's not, I wouldn't say a Photoshop parallel or a Clip Studio parallel, but it's got a lot of capabilities, more so than what you may find in Procreate. I've been curious though about the desktop version of this, so I'm going to dive into that today. We're going to jump right into the canvas and we're going to do a live in-person actual, first-hand account of this. I've downloaded it, but I haven't actually played around with it much yet. All right, so without further ado, let's dive into the canvas. All right, so we're going to jump into this just straight raw right now. I'm going to go ahead and open up the app here and get this sized. All right, so I have a project I already started on my iPad, and I downloaded it from ArtStudio Pro as a Photoshop document and transferred it to my computer. So I'm going to go ahead and start from the ground up. Let's see what we get when we open up a project here. That's the one. All right, opening up a Photoshop document. All right, cool. All right, let's explore here. We've got, what do we got over here? We got our painting brushes, pencils. Okay, all right, that's cool. We got colors here. Now, where is our color wheel? That's what I want to know. All right, the layers look like they imported. They had 2 layers on this one, so that's cool. Let me grab a brush just so I have something. Let's add a new layer. So the interface looks a lot like what you would find on the iPad. It looks like you have to double or right click to get the layers open. So there's no nested actions over here in the layers palette as far as opening or locking, unlocking pictures. You have to right click on them. So that's similar. This, I don't have touch capability on my Wacom either. It's like a 12-year-old Wacom, so there's no touch capability. Let's see, we can pick up colors with the right click or left click. This is interesting. HB pencil. I'm gonna just mess around on a new layer here. All right, my undo button I've got set as a hotkey on my Wacom, so that does that. Let's explore. Okay, you got tools over here as well. Okay, so there's your painting. There's your drawing, there's your eyedropper, cropping, moving, eraser, dodge, paint bucket. Now, the first concerning thing right off the bat is where in the heck is the wheel, the color wheel? I don't, let's see, let's go explore up here. Where is my color wheel? That is the first, okay, we're gonna go ahead and say that right off the bat. That is a fail right there on ArtStudio Pro. The color wheel is nowhere to be found. I love ArtStudio Pro on the iPad. I really do, because it's so easy to get around and it's so intuitive and stuff like that. You got all the normal adjustments, so that's cool. Where the heck is the wheel at? This is crazy. I'm not seeing the color wheel here. So let me. That's interesting. Okay, we're gonna have to go find that. Oh wait. There you go. Okay, so that's over there. So it's on this side. The color picker, the color palette is over here, and your colors thing is over. That's weird. All right. Is there a way to dock this? All right. Well, let's see if there's a way to dock this. Nope, we don't have a way to dock this. Okay, that's the first complaint I would say right there is a negative when it comes to. Let's do some sketching. Let's just do some sketching. I'm gonna grab a blue, and I've got my pencil. So let's do. Oh boy, trying to make my my brush larger, my brush size. Oh, that is weird looking. All right, I'm gonna say right off the bat that you can check your brush size over here. That's cool and everything, but let's see if the eraser works. Okay, the eraser works. Wow, okay, that sucks. So when you switch to your eraser, the color palette disappears. I don't like that at all. Okay. Yeah, see, switching to the eraser, color palette disappears, and I do not know that I like that at all. And I don't like how the brush behaves right now so far as the ability to adjust my brush size. Let's see if my rotation, okay, there we go. Okay, so my Wacom hotkeys I have set up for rotating my little dial on the side to actually adjust the brush size works. So let's put it like 15, and let's just get into some sketching. So this is a basic pencil brush. I'm going to use art pencil. I like the art pencil better. And I don't know how to keep my color palette available constantly. Yeah, there's just no option to dock this thing. So that right there is my number one. Everything else looks cool. I like the interface. Let's just go over the interface. The interface is very attractive, very well laid out. You've got all the good information you might need. You've got your information for your brushes and pencils and colors and all that good stuff over here. Your layers, which is fantastic. Your layer adjustment options here. And, you know, like trash it, save it, and, you know, do all the different things, merge it down, all that good stuff. You right click on your layers and you open up a secondary menu here. You can apply, you know, all your effects and duplicates and deletes and all that good stuff. File looks pretty standard, pretty close to what the interface is on the actual iPad. Yeah, all this stuff looks very standard and very much almost identical to the iPad interface. Got your normal stuff, window help. Okay, this over here, this is cool. I like how you have a tool palette on the left here. You could actually set up more tool palettes. I'm on the iPad. They're actually up here, this tool section here. So I'm assuming. Okay, so if I add current, what happens? I've added my art pencil to my star palette. Okay, so I've added. This is like, it works the same as a star palette up on your iPad. You can put your favorites in there. Okay, that's easy enough. It takes the color, the size, all that good stuff, puts it into consideration. The one thing is this color picker situation, without being able to dock it over here, that is a hard non-starter for me. Like, that's a bad news bears, man. That is one of the most important tool palettes in the entire digital workflow, is being able to actually get to your colors and move around quickly in your adjustments palette. Now the hotkey situation for you know, your brush size, lowering, raising your brush size, that's not a big deal. That's an easy fix. But let's try to zoom in on our layers. Whoa, okay. Number 2, how do we zoom in on the layers? Because I'd like to get in here and do some drawing. And I do not like that stupid pen thing that pops up whenever I start drawing. Not at all. Okay, long click gives us the eyedropper. That's cool. All right, we've got a little, down here on the bottom, we've got ourselves a little bit of information being displayed here on how to hotkey these things. So that's cool. We've got a little hotkey input on the bottom. So, okay, so these little, whatever they call the brackets, that actually raises and lowers your pen size, your brush size. So that's cool. You can use that. That's a hotkey. All right, that works. There's your symmetry, freehand, auto shape line. Oh, I like this. They have the freehand auto shape line. This nested tool right here on how the way your brush behaves basically is much easier to find here than it is in ArtStudio on the iPad. So that's good. But I want to get in here and do some drawing. And brother, I'm not sure how to actually zoom this canvas in. I have hotkeys set up on my Wacom. Whoa, that is the opposite of what I want that to do, but okay. It's going the opposite direction of what I'm saying. All right, so I've got my hotkey set up on my Wacom, but there's no navigator palette. That's the other thing. If I'm just not finding it, like I said, this is the first dive into this program, so it may take me a minute to find the navigator palette. And I don't want to go Googling a bunch of stuff because that's cheating. No cheating. But yeah, so how does one go about zooming in an easy way or navigating around when you're doing stuff? That's interesting. I've got my hotkey set up, like I said, but that doesn't really help me. I don't have a secondary view to look at. All right, let's just sketch. Okay, the erase works good. That's cool. Undo. Pencil, art pencil. Let's change it. Let's go to a pen. See if I don't have any of my pens set up yet, so again, we're jumping right into this. I'm just gonna grab a basic pen. How do we adjust and manipulate our pens? That's what I want to know. That pen is not behaving how I want it to behave, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to change that. What is this? Okay, there's a main. Okay, here's our pen attributes right there. All right, so you gotta hit that little bar right there. When you get your brush editor out, you hit that little bar right there and it gives you your pen attributes. So let's see if we can dynamics, size, minimum scale. Let's try to adjust that. There we go, that added a little bit of taper. Okay, cool. All right, now I've made some minor adjustments here with the pen. Let's see if we like how that's, yeah, that behaves nicely. That's nice, I like that. I'm not gonna mess with anything else yet, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make my size bigger how I want it. So I'm gonna go with like an 8, maybe. Yeah, 8's a good size for doing this kind of stuff with me. Let's go 10, let's go round it up to 10. So the pen pressure is working really well. That looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and add that to my star palette here. So I've got my pen, my basic pen set up. All right, so there we go, that's good. There's a lot of artifacts that keep popping up here and I'm not really sure what that's about. Right. Pen seems to respond well to the pen pressure, which is different to the iPad, because iPad you don't actually have as much pressure control as you do obviously with the Wacom tablet. Oh boy, all right, we've got us that is hair, so let's get our hair delineated there. Yeah, I don't dislike the way the pen behaves. That's pretty good so far. Some of the navigation stuff I'm not a fan of, like the color wheel. Don't like that. The lack of color wheel. Docking, the lack of the ability to dock the color wheel. All right, that pen tip aberration there is really annoying. I don't like that at all. Go open our settings here. Cursor, circle. That's a little better. It's not as widgety. Is that a real word? I don't even know if that's a real word. Okay, so the pen is acting okay-ish now. All right, it seems to be not as smooth of stroke. Like the tracking on the stroke is a little bit off to what I'm used to in like Clip Studio or whatever. Yeah, it seems like we're a little off here. Something's off there. Yeah, I don't like that it doesn't show you. Wow, there are a lot of artifacts and aberrations going on here with this. When you switch tools and stuff like that, that's kind of disconcerting. It feels like you're drawing on the iPad, but you're drawing on a much better tool that has more capabilities and pressure sensitivities and stroke and stuff. So, I mean, the pressure sensitivity seems to be there, but the tracking is the tracking on the pen that. Let's practice stroke some. I don't know. I like ArtStudio Pro on the iPad, but so far on the desktop, I think there's some work to be done here. Mainly just with tool management. I think that to me would be like the biggest upgrade here that we could fix is like tool management. Brush behaviors and stuff like that is something you can manipulate and manage, you know, as you go along, or change your settings and stuff like that. I don't like that there's no navigator, so your pan, scroll, zoom options kind of, they seem to me a little more complicated than they need to be. Let's put it that way. Yeah, see, I do not like that when you flip. When you flip to a new tool, you get a lot of aberration here. Let's take it to a soft eraser. Let's lower the size. Yeah, I don't like how you can't see your cursor size. Not a fan of that. Let's mess around with our settings a little bit and see if. Yeah, still, see, you don't actually get your cursor until you've zoomed in, or until you've actually touched the tablet. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like how you're hovering with the cursor, but you don't get. Let me do something real quick. I'm gonna hit save, see if this works. Let's just see what happens here. And there, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of the program, and then we're gonna see if it actually saved my settings. All right, so I've opened it back up again. Let me file recent. Let's see what we got. Okay, back open here. Let's see if we got any. Oh, it's reversed. Okay. Well, it didn't save all of my settings. Oh yeah, I'm making all kinds of markings. Save the pencil and pen settings I had going on, so that's cool. But yeah, we've got. I do not like that. See, when I flip to the eraser, you don't actually see it. You don't see the eraser. I don't know if it's just because my machine's getting old or what, but brother, I'm not digging that. Let's get our color picker back open. Get the color we want. Okay. I think here's where I'm at. Just given what I've run into so far. All right, let's give it a fair shake. I'm gonna put another layer in here, and I'm gonna go ahead and use the paintbrush. Let's mess with the paintbrushes. Digital round. Let's just try it out. These are the digital round and the Bourdant Air are actually two of my favorites that I use the most. So I'm just gonna try the Bourdant Air, and I'm gonna grab some color here, and let's see if we can mash our way through a little bit of rendering. All right, let me lower my brush size here. This is just the digital round. Whoa, wrong layer. Okay, now let's paint. Let's just see what we get. Brush seems to be behaving okay. Don't like the cursor situation though. That's a non-starter for me. Not a fan of that. I like to see what I'm seeing. And yeah, and it's kind of got these glitchy aberration to it too. It's kind of disappearing. So I would say ArtStudio Pro's got some work to do with their interface. That's going to be my initial assessment. We need some love. We need some work with your interface and with your docking and tool settings type of stuff. And I could write a more specific. Give me a couple hours to play with this thing, and I could actually write it all down and give a specific, breakdown of what would improve it. Right off the bat, dock for your color picker, hotkeys for your, your layer manipulations here, this kind of stuff. Hotkeys. Give me some hotkeys up here. Little icons. You can just tap that sucker like you do in Clip Studio. All right, let's lock the transparency, and then I'm going to grab darker color, add a little bit more red to it, and I'm going to come in here and start putting in some. Oh, that behaves really well. That's really pleasant. Oh yeah, that's nice. I enjoy that. That paint interaction there. That's pleasant. That's not unpleasant at all. I don't like that I have to. Okay. In fairness too, these programs like this are made specifically for. Initially made for like the iPad, right? So some of the behaviors and stuff are geared towards that user touch, the actual finger swipe and touch and stuff like that. So when you try to take a program like that that's made for the iPad and adopt it to desktop, you're bound to run into some issues just doing a one-for-one swap, because you can't really do a one-for-one swap in the way the program behaves and the tools behave and all that good stuff. You've got to actually get into reprogramming some of it and writing code and stuff like that, and that can be a lot. That can be a big job doing that. But right now, so far, the brushes are actually behaving really well. I like this. I like the way this brush behaves. I really wish I had a hotkey set up for my brush size on my Wacom stylus, but I'm not gonna redo that right now for this demonstration, because I've got it set up for Clip Studio and the way I like it. So I'm not gonna jack with that. I don't want to mess up my workflow in Clip Studio, because that's what I'm going to use more than anything. So right now this is looking, it's easy to pick colors, so that's nice. You can pick your colors really nice and easy. Autosave is great. It saves your booty a couple times for sure. The pins, so far as just interactivity, everything looks like it works pretty good. as it should work, so far as the brush interactivity with the paint colors and, you know, with that kind of stuff. So that looks like it's working. The sizing and stuff like that, that's just setting up your hotkeys. I do not like the cursor. The cursor situation here, where you don't actually get... See, I didn't... What's going on there? It's color picking. Why is it doing that? Okay, tap and hold the color pick. I don't like that at all. I don't like the tap and hold color pick. Wow, that sucks. I don't want to do that. Yeah, no. And there's a lot of... See, when I do this, there's a lot of aberration going on. And when I switch to a different tool... See what all kinds of crap goes. I don't know why your tool palette would disappear when you switch tools. It just doesn't make any sense, and then it flashes back on over there. So those are glitches, I think, that need to be addressed right off the bat. Like, if I had to write a letter to the art studio and give them a suggestion, hey, fix those glitches. Like, that's just kooky that your color picker disappears. It's not, you can't dock it, first of all, but it also disappears whenever you switch to an eraser tool. I don't want that to happen. I want it to be docked so I can see that sucker, so I can go back to it. Yeah, that's weird. Okay. Maybe some people like a cleaner canvas and you don't want everything up, and that's why they've kind of done that. But I mean, docking it over here or down here, or giving the option for it at the very least to manipulate your docks and manipulate your tool sets, I think is something they need to work on. I don't, like I said, this is just a first impressions, and coming right out of the gate, comparing it to iPad, I think there's some work to be done here. I like the user interface. I like that it's pretty simple. There's a lot to find, but I think it's too simplified in this, because when you compare it to something like Clip Studio Paint, I'm going to pull that open. So here's Clip Studio. I've got everything I need here. Navigator, this. This is a great setup. This is a little more complex, obviously. Clip Studio Paint is way more complex, and it is a much broader based program than ArtStudio is or is supposed to be. But I think there's a lot you could do with ArtStudio to compete with something like Clip Studio. I think ArtStudio is on to something here, but I think they're still a little bit behind in the interface, the way it interacts with the cursors. And maybe there's a setting I'm missing up here. Let's explore the settings just a second longer. Cursor shape circle. Yeah, I mean, let's turn it off. Cursor with tool icon. Let's turn all this off and see what happens. Yeah, you see, you can't see your cursor at all. Like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Let's turn just the circle on. Yeah, see, it doesn't seem to be wanting to pick it up until you actually touch the canvas, and sometimes not even then. That's weird. That's weird. That's super weird. That's weird, ArtStudio. That's weird. And I don't know if it's just my machine. I mean, my Mac is a brand new Mac. So I know it's not the computer and that kind of thing, the drivers, all that stuff, because I checked all that. But the Wacom I've got is actually a little old, so maybe that's part of the problem. I don't actually know. I'd have to try this on a newer input device to really say. So, I don't know. Y'all give me your opinion. What do you think? Because there's definitely room for improvement here. So far as the interface and so far as the interactivity of tools and stuff like that. I think there's a lot going on that's great. I really do. This is a cool interface in a lot of ways. This is a cool setup. This is simplified. I think this program could really take off if they could tweak some of those. Let me make sure I don't have a setting that needs to be. Yeah, I don't see anything in the settings that has given me options to fix those problems. Let's go into our selection tools. Let's just play around with the selection tools a little bit and see what we have. I'm gonna get my lasso out. I just want to play with this just to see what goes on. Okay, got that. Now what do I need to do? Take my move tool. Let's do a free transform. So Control T. Let's see what we get. Okay, so we do have free transform. We've got all that. Okay, and then skew. Let's see what the skew does. All right. So you got your settings up here for your selection tools. All right, that's cool. That's not too bad. I would prefer if something like this pops up, if you're doing a selection tool, you have a nested menu. That would be, I mean, honestly, if you could have nested menus here, I don't know if we can actually adjust. Yeah, I don't really see anything to that allows me to, adjust as much as I would hope. Let's put it that way, to make as many adjustments to the interface and to the interactivity as I would hope. I would have hoped there would be more when it comes to putting tools on your... Oh, hey, look what we got here. Let's see if we can just click and drag one over there. Nope, that did not work. Okay, so right off the rip, ArtStudio Pro for the desktop. It's a maybe. It's a maybe for me. I think I'm gonna dive into this a little bit more because I actually bought it. I didn't get the free trial. I actually bought the thing. I think it's got potential. I think it's got potential. I don't think it's a replacement for Clip Studio or Photoshop. I do not. I don't think it would work well enough for most people in a professional sense. Just so because of the layout, because of the variability option, or because of the adjustability options with your interface and your tools and setup, and the way it reacts, the way it interacts with your mouse and your my stylus. I mean, my setup is old, so that might be part of it. I don't know if that's part of the, you know, the fragmentation I'm getting in the language, in the communication between the stylus and the desktop, and this kind of things flashing. You could see it in while we were working through. You could see stuff kind of flashing around and doing stuff, and that's kind of glitchy to me. And so I don't know what those glitches are attributed to. I would have to dive into this like pretty deep for quite a few hours to really figure all this out and see if there's ways to tweak and clean that up. The one big loser for me is the docking. You can't dock tools, and you can't dock your color picker, your color wheel. I don't like that at all. Navigation, having a navigation panel would be really huge. That'd be an amazing addition, and being able to manipulate your tool palettes, and so actually pull out specific tools and set them up, because when you're actually on the iPad, you can do that to a lot of things on RStudio. I think the RStudio Pro version for iOS, the iPad, is actually better than the desktop. That's where I'm at with it. I think this program is better served on that platform, on actual an iPad. You know, using it on an iPad is I think better. I think it's better than the desktop version right now. I don't know how long this desktop version's been out. Let me see if I can find that information. There didn't seem to be any latency or lag when it comes to the engine behaving. Like, you actually just, you know, when you lay down strokes, the strokes go out, and they went out really clean. There was no jiggle and, you know, wavy junk. They were just a little bit they weren't, it didn't feel as smooth as it does in Clip Studio Paint or Photoshop. I'll just put it that way. It didn't feel quite as smooth to the interaction of the actual pen. And again, I'm working on a very old layout right now, so that might be part of the problem here. But it does seem like it's a powerful engine. It seems like it's capable of generally everything you'd want to do as a digital artist, just maybe not in the way you're used to, and maybe not in the way you would want it to. And you may have to kind of trip over some of the quirks of the interface to find your tools and get a workflow going. Like with anything though, you can get a workflow going with this. I will say this: if this is the option you have and you just want to pay that $19 and it's $19.99 to get your iOS or your macOS version downloaded, I wouldn't say it's a bad idea. I just think you might get a little bit more out of something like Clip Studio Paint. You're gonna get a lot more. You're gonna get a whole lot more out of that, and it's not a whole lot more expensive. I think if RStudio were to get into this thing and really kind of smooth out some of those quirks for digital artists, then it could be a fantastic program. It could be amazing. And there's a lot of integrated capabilities, or there's a lot of benefit to being able to integrate the same program, whether you're working at home on your big computer on your desktop or you're working on your iPad. Being able to use the same program and move files back and forth and do all those things is amazing. That's a great capability for artists, to have that kind of uniformity of workflow, and it gives you a much easier time of just getting into the flow of making paintings and making art without having to relearn or tweak program or do the, you know, go through all these hoops every time you switch back and forth or something, and doing things different ways in different programs. I don't like that. I don't like to be scattered everywhere. Clip Studio Paint beats it, no question. Like, big time beats it, like a whole lot. It's an entirely different type of program though. So I think take that into consideration if you're looking at RStudio Pro for the Mac OS. Take some consideration. If you're new to digital art, jump into that sucker. Get it. It's a cheap way to get into digital art on your Mac OS without having to get Photoshop and without having to get Clip Studio Paint, and jump into that, because that's a big program with a lot of stuff going on, and it takes a little while to learn. I think this would be an easier learning curve for people. The problem being some of the workflow characteristics that digital artists that have maybe have some experience would be used to, like your tool setups and your docking and your cursor interactivity. That cursor interactivity I got there, I did not like that at all, because you don't actually get to see your paintbrush until you actually clicking onto your thing. And if your brush is too big, or if something's, you've got the wrong brush out or whatever, you're going to be, it's not as accurate. It really doesn't allow you to be as accurate and precise at the end of the day. So yeah, those are just my thoughts. I mean, this is surface level. We just barely started scratching the surface on this today, so maybe with a few more hours worth of playing with it, I could figure out a better workflow, but that's my initial impressions. All right, that about wraps it up for today. I hope you learned something about ArtStudio for the desktop today, for the PC specific, or for the Mac specifically, and maybe something to consider going forward if you're looking for an alternative platform for Photoshop. So as we've explored the program today, I hope you maybe got an idea of the capabilities of ArtStudio Pro. I know I learned a lot today about what I do and don't like about it compared to something like Clip Studio or Photoshop. Still, it's a pretty viable option, I think. Y'all get out there, create something, and be blessed.